Apple becomes the first U.S. company to hit $2 trillion in market cap. That means market valuation. So if you took all of Apple's stock and you sold all of it, they're the first one to have that pile of money be $2 trillion. The stock is up a lot. We're going to go to CNBC, the business website, to talk a little bit about how they managed to pull it off. It's pretty damn interesting. Before we do, if you subscribe to my channel, it's a huge help. Click the bell for notifications. I really appreciate it. Also, you can check out my work at collegeofthedead.com. Zombie Apocalypse graphic novel, ongoing series, ready to ship right now. Also at epicmermaids.com. You'll be able to sign up for the email list. It's like Game of Thrones with mermaids. Very cool, coming out soon. We'll send you an email, let you know when it's coming out. Okay, this is the Deadline article, the $2 trillion number. Over to CNBC. Apple's $2 trillion value is proof that Tim Cook's services plan worked. Okay, Apple is the first U.S. company to become worth $2 trillion. While the mark is largely symbolic, of course it's symbolic, it does underscore Apple CEO Tim Cook's success at changing the company's story from a manufacturing company that's hits-driven, the new hit iPhone, the new hit iPad, to a services company that has a dependable stream of revenue that isn't going to go down even if one of their products isn't a hit. That's the point they're trying to make. Investors have started seeing Apple's business less like a hardware maker and more like a software company, as indicated by Apple's quickly rising price-to-equity ratio, which is now over 33. So price-to-equity or price-to-earnings means the price of the stock, $2 trillion, divided by the earnings, which would equal 33 to 36. The stock is fluctuating a little bit. That's Tim Cook right there. He's so happy. Apple's historic burst through a $2 trillion valuation is largely symbolic, but it underscores CEO Tim Cook's success at changing the iPhone maker's story. When its share price hit $466.77 around 11 a.m., the company became the first publicly traded U.S. corporation to break that barrier. It's the most valuable publicly traded company in the world, beating out Saudi Aramco, their oil company from Saudi Arabia, Microsoft, you may have heard of them before, and Amazon. Apple stock is up about 60% year to date. That means 60% higher since January 1st. The milestone comes a little more than 2 years Apple became the first company to hit $1 trillion in August 2018. So it doubled in value in just 2 years. That's pretty good considering the size of the company. Look at the surge in market value from 2011 to, okay, so you want to buy low, sell high. Or even better, hold on to it. Keeps going up. Investors have started seeing Apple's business less like hardware makers and more like a software company, as indicated by their PE. We know that. Quote, over the past 4 months, the market has really been valuing Apple as a software company, says Logan Park, analyst at Edward James, who has a hold rating on the stock. Hold meaning he's not suggesting to his customers to buy more of it or to sell it. Maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. The services business is growing nicely. It seems to give them a multiple over 30, meaning the PE number, and gives them all the credit in the world for this subscription business. They have a very substantial subscription business. It's more subscribers than Netflix. We're going to get into that in a second. They're starting to get compared to some really big software heavyweights, Perk added. Microsoft trades at a 36 PE ratio, and Amazon's ratio is currently over 123. How does Amazon do it? Amazon's growing super aggressively in every possible place. They're doing things we don't even know what they're doing. Apple started to refocus investor attention on its services business back in 2015 as iPhone growth first slowed. Its definition of services includes a lot of different things. iTunes purchases, App Store fees, Apple Music, licensing, Apple Care warranties on hardware, and revenue from Apple Pay. In the past 2 years, Apple has started to launch new subscription services to bolster its business, such as Apple News Plus, a digital magazine bundle, and Apple TV, a competitor to Netflix and Disney Plus. Last year, Apple also introduced Apple Card, a credit card partnership with Goldman Sachs integrated into the iPhone software. The reason we're talking about a $2 trillion valuation when it feels like it was just passing $1 trillion, which is what it feels like, is just how well they've done vertically integrating through their technology stack, starting with hardware and then now moving into software, ARK Invest's Nick Gruss said. When we think about Apple long-term, we may not be focused on what other analysts are focused on, being iPhone and device sales. We're actually really focused on their services. Good for you, Nick. In January 2016, Apple released new financials related to its service business, and Cook said, I do think that the assets that we have in this area are huge, and I do think that's probably something that the investment community would want to and should focus more on. Well, you're right, I guess, Mr. Cook. In 2017, Cook set an ambitious growth target for the business. Apple wanted to double its 2016 services revenue by 2020, which would put the goal at roughly $46 billion by this year. It hit that goal 6 months ahead of schedule, so services are banging at Apple. In the quarter ending in June, Apple reported $13.16 billion in services revenue, accounting for about 22% of the total sales. Services are much more scalable too. It's easier for them to deliver services. It's easier for them to collect money from Epic Games. It's easier for them to collect money from any type of virtual sales or sales of other people's services on their platforms. It's much easier to do that than to always know that you're going to have the hottest cell phone or the hottest iPad-like device. Before Apple was able to get investors to look like a software company, its low PE ratio compared with big tech pioneers like Microsoft and was an object of fascination for techies and investors. Investors saw its hardware business as hits-driven and worried that future iPhones and iPads might not sell well as they had in the past. Venture capitalist Mark Andreessen, this is really funny, remarked in 2015 that Apple traded like a steel mill going out of business. According to Tom Forte, an analyst at D.A. Davidson, the triumph underscores Cook's unique strength compared to founder Steve Jobs. Interesting. Steve Jobs famously would focus on, our goal is to determine the few things that we should do and do them as well as possible. And then because of the maturation of the smartphone market, I think that forced Tim Cook's hand. He's basically said, what is Apple good at? Now let's apply that to a lot of different things, said Forte. And I think that services is probably one of the best examples, meaning that Apple's not just going to be a hardware company. Good for them and good for their stock. Apple's services business is still half the size of its iPhone business and largely depends on it. Many of Apple's services, like its Apple Care warranties or App Store, are directly targeted at its existing base of 1.5 billion devices, not at the larger market of Android or Windows users. Increasingly, the App Store, which is one of Apple's most important, biggest services, is drawing criticism from developers who say its 30% cut of sales on digital goods is just too rich. It's also feeling pressure from lawmakers and regulators. Cook had to answer questions about the App Store's business practices at a congressional hearing in July. That's what this whole lawsuit with Epic Games has been about. Epic Games decided, you know what, let's take Fortnite and offer in-game direct payments cheaper than you can get payments through an Apple Store for their virtual stuff. And Apple didn't like that, and Apple said, no, you can't buy V-Bucks that way. Virtual bucks, I guess. You can only buy them through Apple Store because that was Apple's cut, that $2 or whatever it is. So Apple cut their application out, and they also have now been threatening them that by August 28th, they're going to stop supporting their Unreal Engine, which could really potentially affect Epic Games in a major way. It could put them out of business practically. So we'll have to see how that develops. But Apple apparently is not interested in backing down. This is where they're making their money, and they don't want to lose any of the perception that their services business is successful and growing. So they're not just going to cut their fees just because Epic Games wants them to. Apple hasn't yet provided subscriber numbers for Apple TV, Apple News Plus, or Apple Arcade, which were launched in 2019. There are other factors behind Apple's rise. Tech stocks in general are doing well in the health event as investors search for safe havens that offer the possibility for growth. Apple is also a big purchaser of its own stock, authorizing a $50 billion increase to the company's share repurchase program. Not just a $50 billion program, a $50 billion increase in 2020. following top-offs of $75 billion in 2019 and $100 billion in 2018. So they buy back their own stock on the open market. Less supply means more demand, essentially, and it helps the price go up. Some investors are betting on a hype cycle this fall because Apple's expected to release an iPhone that connects to 5G networks, which could increase sales, said KeyBank analyst John Vin. But Apple's rise to the ceremonial $2 trillion mark, doubling the company's value in slightly more than 2 years, doesn't happen without investors undertaking a major reappraisal of the company's business model. So the business model is, hey, this is not just a hit-driven hardware company. They've leveraged that hardware into a really successful software business. And Apple has, we didn't see it in this article, it must be in this article, Apple has 550 million paying subscribers to its various services within the reach of its 600 million goal by the end of 2020. That's amazing. 550 million paying subscribers to their services. I think I subscribe to their music. I think I subscribe to their to the extra storage on my phone. I have like a $10 a month charge for that, I think. Who knows? They just suck it in once. You keep paying. You hardly know if you're even using it. But that's great for Apple. It's great for Apple stock. And it's great for their fight with Epic Games. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out. My guess is Apple's going to win this one because they have a proprietary platform. It is their platform. They can charge what they want on their platform, and you don't have to participate. And they obviously did a lot for Epic Games. And Google charges the same thing with Google Play, 30%. So, as well as they charge it on Xbox. It's like that's pretty much the standard. So, why should Apple be targeted? Just because they're big? Yes, that is why they should be targeted. So, all right, that's a good excuse. But that said, it's not like you can't go sell your game on Google Play. And sorry if we can't negotiate a better deal as Apple for you with Google Play. That's your business. You figure it out with Google Play. There are going to be 100 other companies standing behind where Epic Games is to fill in for Epic Games if Epic doesn't want to do business with Apple on Apple's terms. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Is it a monopoly? Yeah, it probably is a monopoly. How else would they get $2 trillion? All right, make sure you subscribe to the channel because you're always helping me when you do that. Click the bell for notifications so you can find out when new things come out. And you can support my work at collegeofthedead.com. You can get a copy of College of the Dead Graduation Day. And you can sign up at epicmermaids.com so that you can get an email when The Mermaids is launched. Full color ongoing series. It's Game of Thrones with mermaids. I know you're going to really like it because I absolutely love it. I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you. And don't forget to comment on this video in the comments below.